Right. Well, the Labor Party is, as we've seen, in Brisbane at the moment for their national conference. Australia's Conservative Political Action Conference is also this weekend in Sydney. So there's plenty to discuss. Joining me soon is Pauline Hanson's One Nation Party Chief of Staff, James Ashby, and radio host Luke Grant is ready to join me now from 2GB. So Grant, welcome to the show. I want to start with Labor's National Conference, where a substantial part of the party, as we've just seen, voted against a motion supporting AUKUS earlier today. When Defence Minister Richard Marles spoke in support, he was greeted with a mix of jeers and shouts from delegates who said that they wanted to, quote, ban nuclear power. So the motion did succeed, but the jeering's given us something of an insight into what some of the rank and file are thinking about national security policy and nuclear energy, doesn't it?
Well, of course, absolutely. Nice to be with you again, Amanda. Yeah, that's exactly right. We've got these largely unelected Labor supporters, union leaders and the like, who are looking at a policy that Australia ticked off on last year at the federal election. I mean, it's funny to me that they refer to it as Labor's signature policy. Of course, this was the work of the former coalition government and Scott Morrison. That might be part of the problem. I don't know. It might be part of the problem driving this. But, you know, when I think about it, Amanda, and I see the Prime Minister saying we're going to have 10,000 highly paid unionised jobs. Wow, well done, union movement. You've certainly got a payoff there. I don't like this at all. I think, you know, these matters have been settled by the Australian people. We don't need our voice checked by Labor's voice. And whatever happened on the floor, they were never going to let the Prime Minister, I guess, cop a loss. But you can only conclude that they're somewhat divided, and that's probably being polite.
I think it's being pretty polite too, and you're right to point out this was the baby of then Prime Minister Scott Morrison and then Defence Minister Peter Dutton. This is what they've produced, and to their credit, the new government has been prepared to stick with the course despite that deeply anti-American sentiment that seems to be pervasive in Labor. Luke, Labor's powerful Environment Action Network faction group had their members saying that they hate nukes and they've slammed the plans to acquire nuclear submarines. It's a bit like them saying they hate coal-fired power, but they take no issue with the Chinese building hundreds of new coal plants, isn't it?
Well, that's exactly what it's like. Exactly. I had a listener say this to me this morning. He said you could get this group, this environmental action group, into a room and get them to play pin the nail on the donkey, and everyone in the room would leave with a tail. Everyone in the room would leave with a tail. I mean, this is madness. And, you know, look, I know the fossil fuel industry is the enemy of the left. We know that, but we've got to recognise a couple of things here. Thing one, there is big renewables. They are a powerful lobby group. They are a powerful sector. We saw in the last election what a bloke with $1 billion or hundreds of millions of dollars can do with TEALs if they want to get something going. So, look, Australians are settling on a position here. I get the feeling that we're now prepared to have the nuclear debate. But, Amanda, what are we going to do? Are we going to rewire the nation at trillions and trillions of dollars? You know, I was seeing it play out in rural Australia right now, upsetting farmers and the like. Or are we going to give a crack to the latest technology, these smaller nuclear generators, and put them where we have coal-fired plants, not have to rewire, and have power available effectively 24/7, or a mix of that and solar panels or wind turbines? There is a solution. It's staring us in the face, and the Labor Party have to, dare I say, I'm going to quote Malcolm Turnbull here, ideology and idiocy, get out of the way. Let's get a mix that's more affordable and far more reliable.
Yeah, I think you're right. And with the small footprint in a land sense that nuclear reactors require, particularly on the new technology, none of the loss of wildlife that we're seeing down in Tasmania in relation to wind farms, and none of this convenient forgetting of the environmental impact of production technologies that like to be called green, but actually involve an awful lot of mining and not a lot of recycling. We need to be a lot more even-handed about the way that we look at these technologies. Now, I believe we also have James Ashby now with us, which is great. Perhaps, James, I'll throw this one to you. Coal mining executive David Moult has slammed electricity generators for posting soaring profits, while miners are forced to sell their coal on the cheap by the government. Tell us what's going on here.
Well, it's disgusting, isn't it, to think that coal mines have been pillared from governments of all levels, whether it be state, local government and federal, more importantly, who brought in this cap of $125 a tonne on coal. And meanwhile, they didn't bring in caps on electricity generators, who have been, obviously, as you've just rightfully pointed out, seen massive profits of over 80% in the last 12 months. And these profits have been passed on back to those coal mines, but to everyday households right across the country. That's what's driven the cost of living up. That's what's driven the cost of supermarkets to increase their prices, because at the end of the day, they've got huge amounts of cold rooms and storage there, freezers that need to be powered. And then, of course, you've got your wholesale distributors that then keep that stuff on cold storage until it gets to the supermarket. So all along the chain, this is a compounding effect of those prices. So yes, the coal mines have got a real bugbear here, and they've got every right to. But Amanda, this is what happens when states sell off essential assets like coal, like water, like telecommunications. Stop selling off state assets to private companies, because you know what private companies want? Money. And what they will achieve at any expense, money at your expense. So stop selling it off.
Yeah, look, I think there's sometimes a place for privatisation, but you've got to be using that to invest in more public infrastructure, and you've got to be choosing wisely so that you're not leaving consumers in an unfair position. One example that I might throw to you, Luke, is that of AGL. I mean, you'll remember in 2014, the Liddell coal-fired power plant in the Hunter Valley was sold to AGL for basically nothing. 2018, Alinta wanted it for $250 million. They were going to buy it and keep it open until the mid to late 2020s. But AGL said no, because the bankers at JP Morgan said they're better off shutting it down, allowing those wholesale power prices to rise and rake in the higher margins on their other assets. Then, this year, a month after Liddell shuts down, well, power prices went up by 51% and profits double. Why do people assume that those companies who are into non-traditional energy sources are somehow going to be less commercial and more virtuous than those in the traditional generation business?
Well, 100%. I mean, it's madness, isn't it? Look, privatisation, I'm a small government guy. I've always thought, flog it off, get a return, build more infrastructure, and away we go. But there are some things. James touched on them. Water, certainly power. Why are we putting for example, let's stick with water. Why would we make a profit? Why would we allow an international company to make a profit out of water? It's kind of important.
Yeah, 100%.
Shouldn't we be ensuring that there's A, enough of it, and B, it's available to people? And we're finding the same situation. We found it in toll roads in New South Wales. But in power, people need power. It's not kind of something you voluntarily, will I go with power today or not? You need it. And it shouldn't be there so that foreign companies and Australian companies can make a big quid. And whilst I say AGL, you beauty, make as much money as you can, make it out of stuff that's not absolutely necessary for the people. I agree with James, and I think we've lost our way here a little bit. We've got as much as I prefer much smaller government, we've got to protect the people, and they're not being protected.
Yeah, essential services need to be treated appropriately. I'm sorry we're out of time, and James, we didn't get to talk a lot. I'm sorry, but thank you both very much for your time. We'll catch you next time.